Well, we live in the age of woke capital, and that means it's no longer enough for a company to sell you a product you want to buy. They sell you a worldview whether you want it or not. So Google lectures about diversity. Starbucks tells you you're a racist. And the NBA is no exception to this rule. The league moved the 2016 All-Star game out of North Carolina, for example, because of the state's policy on transgender bathrooms, a policy that the voters of North Carolina ratified. Doesn't matter. NBA players regularly make left-wing political statements, as you know, and the league approves of that. But it turns out there's a limit to freedom of speech over there in basketball world. Over the weekend, Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey tweeted support for the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Now, that implied criticism of China's fascist government, and that was too much for the NBA. Morey's tweet was deleted, and the NBA immediately groveled to China's authoritarian, American-hating leaders. The league issued an apology, making it clear that Morey did not represent the NRA. He may support freedom and democracy, but the NBA certainly does not. J.D. Vance is the author of Hillbilly Elegy and one of the clearest thinkers on modern politics. He joins us tonight. J.D., what does this tell us about the NBA and woke capital more generally?
Well, you know, Tucker, some of the examples you highlighted, Starbucks picking side within American politics, Target picking side within American politics. You know, these companies' positions might be stupid, but they can at least say that they're choosing the side of an American political interest. In the case of China, whether it's Apple helping the Chinese security state, whether it's Hollywood bowing down before China, or in this case, the NBA bowing down before China, you know, these companies can't even claim that they're defending an American value or an American interest. And I think one of the things it tells us is that American business interests, if they see the almighty dollar in the hands of a foreign rival, they'll go and chase it, even if it's not in the best interest of their own country.
I mean, not in the best interest. I mean, this is our preeminent rival, enemy, actually, I think, from their perspective on the world stage, a country that's about to overtake us economically and militarily. I mean, siding with them seems like a profound betrayal.
Yeah, it's a profound betrayal in a couple of different ways, Tucker. The first is what you mentioned. I mean, I think we're in a geopolitical struggle with China, unlike anything we've seen since at least the early 1930s with Germany. We're not yet at physical war, and hopefully, of course, we don't ever go to war with China. But we're in a struggle really for global preeminence with this country, and they have ambitions to be a global superpower. That is necessarily going to take them in competition with us. You know, the other way that this is a really significant betrayal of American values is that China actively does so many of the things that the left says that it hates about our own country. You want to talk about Islamic persecution. The Chinese are running actual concentration camps for some of its Islamic population in China. You want to talk about treating gender minorities fairly, which is the favorite topic of the left these days. Go try to find a transgender bathroom in China. Go try to find a two-gender bathroom in the state of China. They're actively doing things that people in this country say that they hate and violate their political beliefs. Of course, you know, when Republicans do it, it's the target of criticism. But when the Chinese do it, people seem to be okay with the violation of core values. And of course, Tucker, as you probably know, the most egregious hypocrisy on this front is climate change. If you actually buy the argument that CO2 emissions are causing global climate change, the worst offender by far today and in the future is China. There is a reason that climate change activists go after Americans and American consumers, but they don't go after China. And it makes it pretty clear that it has nothing to do with climate change. It has to do with, frankly, taking the side of a really vile regime over the interests of our own country.
And they know that we're so self-hating that they can control us. They can bully us into submission. But the Chinese don't hate themselves, do they?
No, they don't, Tucker, and that's one of the craziest things about China is whether it's Chinese nationals who are living overseas in America or Western Europe, whether it's folks who maybe go on a student visa and then come back. What's pretty clear is that China is very good at ensuring that its own citizens actually love the country. And I don't think there's a whole lot that's especially lovable about the Chinese nation these days, but they're very good at making their own citizens patriotic. And unfortunately, we have a country that has a lot to be, we have a lot to be proud of in America.
Yes.
But unfortunately, a lot of folks don't think that this country is something to be proud of. And when you're in a global geopolitical struggle where one nation is afraid of its own shadow and the other nation is proud of itself, it's not too difficult to imagine which nation is going to win.
Yeah.
And I think because of this, Tucker, just one really important point in all this is that we have to be willing to push back against this stuff using political power. You know I'm a Republican, but one of the things I don't like about the Republican Party these days is that we're afraid of actually using political power. There are things that we could do to push back against these companies that are taking the side of China over America.
Exactly right.
In the case of the NBA, we could go after their stadium subsidies. But what happened last time we had significant political power? The very same companies that are taking the side of China over Americans and American consumers got a big tax break. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot.
It's masochism, and it's terrible for the country. I couldn't agree more. J.D. Vance, it's always great to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.